And welcome back to another episode of Four Chicks Chatting. We are in the new decade, people. The new decade,
Woo! Woo!
2020. Stop it.
Woo!
You're launching your decade with the Four Chicks. We are so excited to be after the holidays and the madness of December and houses upside down and inside out, traveling, family, all kinds of good stuff. We are happy to be
Sugar.
launching. Yeah, sugar.
Sugar. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we might have to watch each other and nudge people if they start nodding off from sugar comas from the holidays. But anyway, we are so happy to be launching this new decade back on the Four Chicks, and we have got some interesting conversation today. And in typical Four Chicks chatting style, we have this so thought out and well prepared. No, we don't. That's kind of how we're going. Anyone going into their year not thought out and well prepared? We are talking today about your one word for the year. I kind of went this, I remember years ago it was what's your 3 words. Then we trimmed it down to 1 word because this world has no attention span. But it's
I
been
don't.
a thing for a couple of years. And the Four Chicks today are going to hammer through 1 word. And I don't think that any of our listeners are going to be surprised at who has their word already and who doesn't. Some of us remain disorganized.
But not our resident brainiac, BSR. She probably has it. She's probably already got it engraved somewhere and emblazoned on walls in her house or something like that, right? You do, don't you?
She's made it an acronym. Like she'll have the word, and then there'll be like for each letter, there'll be a
And
phrase.
An acrostic poem.
Yeah, I think is it on a pillow?
Acrostic.
I'm gonna make sure it's on a pillow.
I haven't heard the word acrostic poem in a long time. Anyway, so let's have Robyn kick this off because she's our organized one. And okay, Robyn, you tell us what your word is. And then I have a commentary about this that I think was actually maybe your word for last year and you didn't realize it. But go on.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with last year. My word was confidence. And last year was the first time I had done a word of the year. And it made such a difference in my year, both personally and professionally, that I thought I have to stick with this and I'm going to do a word of the year again. And my word of the year for 2020 is focus. And the reason my word for 2020 is focus is because I tend to make these really big lists of things that I want to do, big goals and things that I want to accomplish. And then I can't narrow them down to actually fine tune them enough to do them. So just because I have so many things that I want to do this year, in addition to what I did last year, I decided that to focus on one task at a time and complete it and then move forward would be the best way for me to handle my business going forward. As well as I need to focus on how I spend my time and divide that up between work and family, because towards the mid to end of 2019, I was focusing so much on work that I wasn't focusing as much on like Gracie as I wanted to. I found myself working late into the evenings and things like that instead of just sitting and being with her. And so my word focus has 2 different meanings, but they're both going to hopefully help me on that trajectory for a successful 2020 on both sides of my life.
Interesting.
Well said.
I like it. I like
That's
it.
interesting. I think I was in the opposite boat. I had to focus on so many family issues that I didn't get to focus on all the stuff that I wanted to in my business. And now I'm turning the tide a little bit differently. Things are straightening out and all of that. But I think it's also interesting because I wanted you to tell everybody your word because I felt like focus was your word and you didn't realize it for 2019 because listeners, go look at the Robyn Graham photography website. The stuff that you have that you produced, I felt like you had focused on your business, but I guess what the root of it really was your confidence. The
Oh my
fact that you
gosh.
focused on
Absolutely.
that and you were confident to go try all those new things and then really find where your brilliance lies. That's pretty amazing. And then it rolls into focus.
Yeah, and I think I can see where you would have thought that for 2019, but I think you're right. You just nailed it, that as my confidence grew and I started to believe more in myself, I believed that I could do the things that I did.
Yeah.
And so I was able to put them out there. Whereas before, and I've talked about this a million times, I kind of hid behind my camera and I thought that was what I needed to do. And as I felt more things pulling on my heart and mind last year, that confidence really helped me be able to then make those lists of things I wanted to do.
Well, I have to interject and say, when you said you're going to do even more than you did last year, I'm exhausted because the stuff that you accomplished last year, I mean, every time I turn
Amazing.
around, it's like, well, I wrote a new ebook. Well, I'm launching a new course and I have a new program and now I'm doing a podcast. I'm like, oh my God,
Mary Fran took a nap.
I did. I listened to her and I went, yeah, I'm going to go to bed. But, I think the important thing to recognize maybe is that all of these words are sort of part of our personalities and our personas and the things that we need to succeed. And maybe, because I was never really I just never really did this. And maybe I need to do it because I never really focused on that focus. There we go, focus. I never really chose a word. I guess I just sort of bumbled through life and went, okay, what's coming next? I'll do that. But maybe when you do keep bringing yourself back to that one thing, it does, first of all, enforce that one thing, but then maybe allows you to grow in other areas too that you might not be so aware of. Because like Kristin said, Robyn, you clearly were focused last year.
Oh, yeah.
But it came out of the confidence thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I said, last year was the first year I did that. And Kristin, you inspired me to do that because you had done a word of the year in 2018. And then was it last year was extraordinary or 2018 was extraordinary?
2018 was extraordinary. Last year was monetize.
Okay.
That was my big question for you guys now is, can I use the same word? Because it started to work towards the end of 2019. And I feel like I'm on this bit of a little roll now. And can I still use monetize? And that's purely for my family situation. I have to focus on what are the things that are going to monetize in my talents and where I have my area of focus, as opposed to the stuff that is fun and creative and those outlets,
Oh, I absolutely think you can use the same word.
Yeah, I think too. I think especially since you already have momentum
Mm-hmm.
for that
Mhm.
word. And I think for you, because you've been through such a shift in life and lifestyle, that to have a word that is going to help you set intentions and grow and move forward to more independence, I think is really important.
Now, the other thing I was debating, and maybe there's like your one word and then there's your sub word. I do have to monetize everything, so I still have to keep that in the back of my mind. And I guess, Robyn, you still have focus. I mean, confidence in there too. My new keynote and the eventual next book is living unconditionally, and I thought maybe unconditional is my word for this year. That instead, I'm not waiting for these certain conditions to be met to take myself to the next level, or when everybody's happy over here, or I find the house that works for us, or get the mortgage straightened out. Like not meeting conditions, not having all those, just getting out there and doing my thing, not waiting for the love of my life to walk through the door, not waiting for all of these other things, and just do the stuff that I know I need to do for my 5 and 10 year plans.
Yeah, I like unconditional too. Because you have to do these things no matter what. It's kind of
there's no choice now. It just has to happen.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it opens up your whole world. I mean, it just opens up every possibility to you when you say unconditional, because, as we all know, we make these plans and very often God's laughing and other things happen and the plans don't work out. So if you're willing to live unconditionally, you can learn to evolve without that condition, whatever thing, your plan being met, and you can shift and there's the word that so many people use, that pivot word.
Oh.
And you can, but you can take that word unconditionally and adjust it to your changing circumstances. And I think that's something that maybe all those words should have in common, that we keep them able to adjust to our changing circumstances. What do you think, Kath?
And that's all the time we have for today. I'm so going first next time.
Marcino out.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, well, my word was focus, but I've lost that. So I got to go back and think of another one. But I'm glad that you touched on the word personalities, Mary Fran, because that's kind of my jam. But the reason why I picked focus is because I have that problem. I have a very lack of focus. I, like Robyn, I start a lot of things and then move on to some other things. But because my personality is such that I am easily distracted, and I don't really like to get mired in the details of things. And so I know for me to be successful, both professionally and personally, I have to become more focused. So that's kind of a blind spot for me, an area of improvement that I absolutely have to focus on or work on this year to get to that point where, okay, I'm running on all cylinders and
So
not just
should
a
that
couple.
word then take into account your personality?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I could sit here and say, I am going to become, you know, an Excel wizard and to develop a course on Excel. I mean, that's ridiculous. So I think
I
it
think
really
we could all
has,
raise our hands on that one.
yeah, except Robyn. But I
Robyn
think
would do it.
you really do need to stay true to your strengths, I think.
I like
I
that.
think when you have this stuff thrown at you where it's like, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that. If that's something that doesn't work for you, don't feel like you have to fit into this box of I have to have a word and everything has to be related to that word and my vision statement has to have that word in it 3 times. It just doesn't work that way. And another thing I thought of, again, my personality, and that I get bored easily. I think everybody hits the ground running being focused at the beginning of the year. So I think it's kind of, it doesn't even have to be a word, it's a state of mind, I think. And then by the time you get to quarter 2, you may have a different word because you're evolving personally. You've got family things that change and business things that change and clients' needs that change. And so I see your word kind of changing too. But to Robyn's point, we both have kids going to college this year. So all I want to do right now is snuggle with my baby on the couch and watch $1 Million Listing. Shout out to Bravo. That's all I really want to do right now. So that's kind of what I'm going to focus on.
So does the word have to be, I guess, because I've really never done this. So what are the parameters? Like, what should your word take into account when you're trying to determine what's going to be this kind of guiding, overriding thing that you're going to think about? What are the things that you should take into account when you're trying to come up with a word?
What are
Work
your
backwards,
goals?
right? Yep, work
Okay, so
backwards, Mary
goals.
Fran.
What are your
There you
goals?
go. And then bring
Where
it
do
down.
you want to be at the end of 2020? Like where did you start in 2019 and where did you end? What did you not accomplish that you want to accomplish in 2020?
Okay.
I think your
I
core
ended
values are
12
in
years
there.
heavier. How that happened? I have no idea. 12 pounds heavier. 12. So I'm not going to begin.
So it's goals, but goals can be anything. They can be professional, they could be personal, they
Sure.
could be all things. It
Absolutely.
doesn't, it should be encompassing, in other words.
Yeah. And you have to, I think, like Kristin just said, core values, what are your values, your visions, and your passions? And how do you want to help yourself fuel those things and accomplish those things throughout the year? And like Kathy said, I think you can add another word in second quarter or third quarter, fourth quarter, or change the word out completely depending on where you're at and how life changes or what curveballs are thrown your way throughout the course of the year.
So the overriding purpose of having a word is what?
For me, it was just to kind of fuel me or give me like a push. It was just that word that I could say. It kind of became a mantra, And then when I created my vision board, it was, the areas that I wanted to have confidence grow last year, and the things that I wanted to do so that once I attained that confidence. But it was just having that mindset and setting those intentions that, okay, this is what I chose for this year. And I need that constant reminder to then push myself forward.
Yeah. Mine was for direction. It keeps me focused. We're talking about focus because there's so many things that come at me and so many things I want to get involved in, but I had to focus last year on that one thing, monetizing. And now, that's why I'm looking at this year. What is the one thing that, like Robyn said, at the end of 2020, I want to look back, because I was able to look back. I was able to take a lot of time off in December to be with my family, my son that was home from college and all of that, and do all the things that they needed me to do in December, because I had set so many things in motion earlier in the year to monetize that now I want to keep going with that. So I always have to have that focus constantly. So one word helps me for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess I need one.
Especially those of us, all of us that are entrepreneurs and at home and don't have the team meetings and the boss and supervisors telling you where you're going next. You have to create it on your own. And for people like me, I am not by nature somebody that is just going to, okay, I've set this for the day and these are the 4 things I am going to do. That's
Oh,
not
hell
in my
no.
nature. No,
Yeah.
I have 4 things the night before, and by the time I wake up in the morning, I cross them all out and I have all new ideas.
I really
Or I'm
like
already
the idea.
moving them over to the next day. Yeah, I don't feel like that today, so I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I like the idea, though, of it being something that gives you a general direction. I mean, because I think we all have to recognize that the day can change at a moment's notice. But if you have that kind of umbrella thing that keeps you moving in a certain direction, then we have to evaluate ourselves based on broader periods of time. You can't evaluate yourself and your success based on a single day. So maybe that word, in keeping you in a direction, allows you to live your life and accommodate those things that come up, but get you back on track, at the end of it.
Yeah. Let's switch out the word to direction. And what direction are you going in this year? What direction are you taking this year? I like that better.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
Somebody tweet that.
Tweetable, click to tweet. And then if you need more guidance I haven't listened to this podcast yet, but Madeline Sklar has her Communities That Convert with her friend Cammie, and they have a whole episode dedicated to how you go about deciding on your one word.
Oh, cool. That's a good resource.
Love Madeline.
Yeah, that's a great resource. And I guess that's something too that you can, take a look at what other people are doing and thinking as far as that goes. Because, one of the things that I resolve to do at the beginning of every year is try to get out of my own head a little bit, because it's a dangerous place up there.
Don't we know it?
But I think when we do take in what other people are doing, especially these thought leaders, these people that we like to follow, like, the Brene Browns and the Mel Robbins and the Marie Forleos and all those people. And I don't know if they have a particular word of the year, but they all have certain, I think, mantras and ideas that maybe they repeat. So maybe look at that for inspiration. I mean, if you're not so sure where to go on your own with this, because I think sometimes it's hard to find this overreaching, like, what's the theme of my life going to be for the year? Like, that's kind of how I looked at this, and maybe that's why I never did it, because I thought, well, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day, like Kristin was saying.
I think that's kind of the beauty of it, that you don't know what's going to happen, and I think that's kind of fun, and I think people are afraid to embrace that. But
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. But I think that was also part of my resistance to choosing a word. But I think that if you recognize that one word can also have different dimensions, then you're not stuck with anything.
Wait, you want to hear something funny, Mary Fran? You actually did have a word for 2019, and it was no. Because remember, you kept saying, like, no, if I'm not getting paid to speak for this thing, then I have to say no. And you did a lot of saying no. And then look at how your year evolved and your focus and your book came out and all that stuff, because you said no to a lot of other things.
You know what? You're absolutely right. And maybe
Look
that's
at
the other.
you.
Maybe that's the other thing. Like, take a look at, as you were all saying, where you were in the last year, and kind of see if there is a theme to what you were doing, and maybe build on that. And you're right, Kristen. That was it wasn't unintentional in terms of the decision to do that. But in terms of it becoming something that really impacted the way I live my life and the effectiveness. Maybe that's the other thing to think about with this word. What's going to help you be effective?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't, maybe that's a good thing that my word was no, because I think sometimes we think it has to be this real positive, energizing thing. But sometimes the word no or something like that can be energizing too if you use it correctly.
Yeah, look at that.
How about that?
Look at us.
Didn't even know that.
Look at Mary Fran has a word of the year and doesn't even know it because she's just that efficient. You heard it here first.
Good Lord.
All right, any
you've
little
given me thought.
nuggets?
You've given
Any
me
brilliance
thoughts, ladies.
bombs from us?
Well, I'm going to come up with a word, that's for
All
sure.
right.
I'm going to come up with something and take a look at the whole thing and take a look at where I was last year and what helped me to be effective, and try to combine that with where I want to be at the end of the year. So thank you for clarifying all this for me, because I really wasn't sure what the whole point was. But now I get it.
There you go. And
I'm going to say be true. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just be true to yourself. If finding a word doesn't work, or you think it should be a certain word, chances 9 times out of 10 you're going to lose it by March. So just be true to yourself.
And I think what I was going to add goes right along with that is also choose your word, set up your intentions for the year and set your plan, but give yourself some grace in there too, if it's not going according to the plan, and take a step back.
Good idea.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think allowing yourself to choose a word, but then give yourself the grace so that it's not something that becomes a stress factor or overwhelming, because it's a word.
Forget it.
And it's meant to help you and serve you. And if it's not, then change it.
I like that.
There you go.
I think that's the best advice of the day, because it's all about evolving to become who we want to be.
Yeah, it's your journey. You're the one writing the story. Write the next chapter, so the way you want it to go. So there you go. Now I'm really interested, though, to hear what our listeners come up with as their word, or what was your word last year, and how did that manifest in your life, as we talked about with our words from last year, and then what are you planning for this year? So leave that in the comments. Give us a shout or a DM on all the social thing platforms that we're on, and definitely leave us a rating and review, because that's how we get this word out. Our word for the 4 chicks is review and rating for the year.
I feel like we're on Sesame Street, the word of the day.
We can have numbers too.
I was just going to do that.
We do have numbers.
I am the count.
Oh, we took a bad turn here. Okay, thank you all
everyone,
for listening, and check in with us on that social thing. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.